Alrighty, here we go with video number 6. This particular capture that we're watching the footage to, I tried to do the audio for this 20 to 25 times. It was the first capture I timed down and cropped out, and then I just had so many points I was trying to touch on in the one video that I ended up scrapping the audio every time, and I decided I'd leave this video and eventually make my way back around to it. Having made my way back around to it now, one of the first things I want to touch on in this is the player outlines. And not just the player outlines, the Titan outlines. A lot of people are saying in the new footage that's coming out for Titanfall 2 multiplayer clips that you can't actually see player outline. That might be true, but I'm not 100% on that. Partly because when you're seeing pilots jump around in these multiplayer clips that have been released, they still have a weird aura or glow to them. And if you notice the guy with his jetpack just there, that glow might be from the jetpack. But at the same time, I know that the Titanfall development team were saying they were just going to really fine tune it down, so I'm not sure if it's in or out 100%. And as you can see, this Jackaboy 16 just got a really cheap kill. In another video I'll upload, I actually get a really cheap kill like that myself. Because of the player outline, I felt so bad about it that I sent the guy a message after the game saying sorry. So even, as you can see, even if you're on the winning end of using the player outline, it still feels cheap. And it's just not needed. If your eyes are that bad, go and get an eye test. First-person shooter video games have been around for that long that we're at the point now where we're trying to hold everybody's hand. And it's reached a point of, like, literal stupidity. So that shit needs to be taken out of the game and removed 100%. One of the other things I want to touch on in this specific lot of footage are these blue notifications that pop up everywhere. As you'll see, when I died a minute ago, there was a big blue notification. That's very insulting to a player that is probably using the gun that they're going to get a notification for. It's not needed. If you can't figure out how to use a gun, then you shouldn't be playing a game, or you should be playing a more advanced, like, basic mode of the game. Maybe they can just put the notifications in like a training or a campaign style mode and turn them off, or give me the option to completely disable them. Another thing I wanted to really quickly touch on is those ticks and throwing them. See, the notification popped up right after I'd thrown both. I'd actually consistently, when I was using the ticks, I'd consistently throw one, find the notification and pop up as or just after I'd thrown the second. So that's something that doesn't really feel too correct. And if you've got another notification that's delaying the tick notification, it's even worse. There's a massive delay on it. Now, I called my Titan here, and it didn't really call where I thought it was going to, which was out here. So I switched it to guard mode, because I wasn't sure if it had called in guard mode and then it was in follow mode and I was switching. So take note of the guard mode though, because I actually started using this really consistently and well to get pilots off of me. You'll find as a pilot jumps on you, you can actually immediately jump out of your Titan if it's in guard mode, turn around and just shoot them straight away. Until I started using the shoulder laser, I was using the guard mode to get the pilots off very, very well. Might be a little tip that not many of you are too familiar with just yet, and going forward into the new game, until you figure out how you're going to engage with derpy pilots that are jumping on you, then it might be a useful little tip. So, as you'll see in a second, it's a very good example of how the guard mode works. Another thing I wanted to quickly touch on was the amount of crap on the screen. As you can see, like, there's just horrible boxes popping up everywhere. You've got the radar in the top left, which is all non-spatial. It's all round. It's not using the space correctly. For the little see on the top left when you're in the Titan, you'll see it again in a second. Instead of taking up the room with a square or a rectangle, on the top left corner, you just got wasted space. Why not extend that to a square or a rectangle? I'd also argue that the tiny little bit of roundedness you've got on the top right and bottom left, I would personally rather see it go back to a square. And also removing all these horrible red cones or triangles that pop up. They're very in your face, they're inaccurate. It's a game that came out after the first one, and it feels like they've gone backwards as far as the actual technology they've got, which is meant to be 5 years after Titanfall. So that's a big thing that you might also feel needs addressing. Another thing on this specific map was the amount of times you'd see batteries fall through the map. I actually played this map a bunch. I actually started just telling people in the lobby when I'd see them run to a spot where the batteries were known to fall through, I'd just tell them, just leave it, batteries falling through the map. Some people would think you were full of it, but a lot would be, okay, and just run off. There's two spots where an ogre comes from, just up here, in that little hall. There's a spot where the batteries fell through consistently. It's also on the other side of the map, in that grassed field. They fell through there really consistently. And why we're talking about batteries and hopping in and out of the Titan, you'll actually notice a little bit later that the mechanism to hop out on Xbox is X. So it depends what layout you're using for your controllers. I use just X, so X hops out and hops in. Now in Titanfall, Y changed your weapon. Y allowed you to pick up a different weapon. In this tech test, X was pick up a different weapon. So what you'll actually find, and I've got this on record a bunch, is you'd hop out, run around trying to find a battery that had either fallen through the map or you couldn't find. You'd end up accidentally, as you're trying to hop back in your Titan, run to it and press X, you'd end up picking up another anti-Titan weapon. Because usually the pilot that you were killing that was around there that was trying to steal your battery or did steal your battery, you've just killed, and usually they've got the anti-Titan weapon out. So as you're hopping back into your Titan, you essentially end up with two Titan weapons. Now this isn't great at all. It's easy to change with a simple button changing or making it so it was the equivalent of the first Titanfall, where a different button changes a different X doesn't allow you to hop in and have two Titan weapons. Sorry, I went on a bit of a ramble there. Essentially, you mute it as a pilot or player or gamer or Titan or whatever. When you have to hop back out again, and if you realize you've picked up a second Titan weapon, you might not even have the opportunity to hop out again and pick up your other weapon. And even if you can hop out because you've got the time and no one's currently engaged with you, you probably won't be able to find your weapon because it'll fall through the map or all sorts of crazy things happen. So, as you can see, this was actually a tied game, a draw. It was nice to actually have a couple of draws, but at the same time, I found Bounty Hunt consistently ended before either team had reached a score limit. So, yeah, that's just that video wound up